Good morning, friends. Since you are going to be on your own today doing your work, I wanted to model what you're doing today and show you a little bit about the tips and tools for adding your notes into our summary notes for Love That Dog. So today you're going to want to have these materials. You'll want to have your book, Love That Dog. You're going to want to have a pencil. You're going to want to have some sticky notes. And if you have big ones like this, you might want to cut them in half so that they're smaller. And then you are going to need to have open your Seesaw assignment for this activity. And that's where you're going to put your notes eventually. But your first step is going to be to read. So I am going to be modeling for you reading pages 1 through 5. But in reality, you're reading pages 12 through 19. Okay? So you are ahead of where I'm modeling today, because I don't want to model the section that you're doing. That would just give you all the answers, and then you wouldn't be doing the work. That doesn't make sense. So the first step is I'm going to open up my book. I'm going to have my sticky notes, and I'm going to have my pencil nearby, because as I read today, I want to take notes in my book. That's step 1. So I'm opening up. It says, Jack, room 105, Miss Stretchberry, September 13th. I don't want to because boys don't write poetry. Girls do. I've told you before, I think that's kind of strange. So I might make a note for myself, and I'm going to use my annotation symbols. And for this case, I would probably use the exclamation point, because I think it's pretty surprising that he says that girls don't write poetry. So I'm going to write down, he says, girls don't write, or he says girls write poetry and boys don't. I disagree. So I think that's pretty surprising. So once I have my note, hold on, I'm going to put it in my book on that page, because I might use this when I do my chart today. Then I'm going to move on. September 21st. I tried, can't do it. Brain's empty. And I showed you last week I had this connection sticky. Hopefully you can read that. A C with a little circle as connection. And I wrote down that it reminds me of a fixed mindset, not a growth mindset. September 27th. I don't understand the poem about the red wheelbarrow and the white chickens and why so much depends upon them. If that is a poem about the red wheelbarrow and the white chickens, then any words can be a poem. You've just got to make short lines. And I asked a question here. So I used my question mark, and I said, can any words be a poem? I don't know the answer to that. I'm wondering. He says that. That's what Jack believes. But I don't know. Can any words be a poem? October 4th. Do you promise not to read it out loud? Do you promise not to put it on the board? Okay, here it is, but I don't like it. And here's the poem that he ends up writing. So much depends upon a blue car splattered with mud speeding down the road. And the note that I took here says, I used the star because that reminds me that an important event is happening. And I wrote down that Jack wrote a poem. It's his first poem. That's pretty important in this section. And I'm reminding myself that I will be answering the question, what happened? So that might be something I want to talk about. And the last page in my section that I have to read says October 10th. What do you mean? Why does so much depend upon a blue car? You didn't say before that I had to tell why. The wheelbarrow guy didn't tell why. And I had this question, but it's also kind of a connection, because I think I know now. Is his poem, the blue car poem, like the wheelbarrow poem? Is it modeled after that poem? And I think I can answer that question now, having read the wheelbarrow poem and having read his blue car poem, that they are similar. So now I'm ready to go to my notes and figure out what I need to put in there. So you can see on my screen that I have summary notes up. You'll have these in Seesaw. You also have them in your workbook, your Love That Dog workbook. However, the pictures you guys are taking are so poor, I can't read your handwriting. So I'm going to ask you to type in today. I'm not able to read your handwriting. I don't know if it's because of the quality of the cameras on our computers and our Chromebooks or what. So I am going to ask you to type in your answers. You can also put them in your workbook if you want. That's up to you. So I'm keeping my book handy because I want to be able to refer back to it and see what I said. And I'm going to, you won't have to do this. Well, you will have to get a text box, but mine looks a little bit different. I'm in a different program. And the first question asks, what happens? So on these pages 1 and 2, I should be open to pages 1 and 2. And that's when he talked about boys not writing poetry and that his brain's empty and he tried, but he can't do it. So on these pages, I would say, oops, moved my thing. I need to put this over here. I would say that Jack thinks only girls write poetry. And I would say that Jack doesn't want to write poetry. You can see here that I'm using these little asterisks as bullets. That's what they're called, to make kind of a list. I'm not worried about putting complete sentences here. I'm just putting notes. But they need to be clear enough notes that I understand what you're saying. Now I'm going to think about what Jack feels. I think that Jack feels frustrated by writing poetry. I also think Jack, I'm just going to put J period, feels, or Jack is acting with a fixed mindset. I made a note about that I'm looking at here, instead of a growth mindset. So he doesn't sound like he's willing to learn, in other words. And now I need to put some text evidence. So you'll definitely need your book for this. You can see here there's quote marks. So I want to pull a direct quote, a line or two that Jack says or writes that has to do with him feeling frustrated. So I'm going to do that first. And I'm going to go to the part where he says, I tried, and I'm writing it just like it's written in there. So I am going to put punctuation. Can't do it. Brains, enter down. Brains empty. And I might even put the page so that I know what page that is. That's on page 2 in parentheses. Then I can paraphrase here. That means I can put in my own words my other proof that Jack is feeling frustrated. I'm going to say something about how he doesn't seem to understand the poem he read. And this is coming from page 3. Okay, so I'm not using a quote there. I'm using my own words to put my ideas in. So now you can see I filled this out. You know what? I just realized this is for pages 1 and 2. That doesn't make sense if I put page 3. So I need to put something different. I tried, can't do it, brain's empty. I'm just going to put, how else does he, I don't know if there's anything else that shows that he has frustration. Oh, I guess when he says he doesn't want to because he thinks he doesn't want to write poems because he thinks only girls do. That's on page 1. Okay, now I'm ready to move to page 3. So page 3 is where he's talking about the red wheelbarrow poem. So what I can say that happened is Jack read a poem about a red, wheelbarrow. and he didn't understand it. Okay. The feeling I think he feels here is confused. And my proof of that is when he says, I don't understand the poem about the red wheelbarrow. Okay, so that's a quote, and that was from page 3. And then I can say, he asks a lot of questions about the poem. He asks about if any words can be a poem, that you can just use short lines, and why so much depends upon it, and so on and so forth. And now I'm ready to move to my last part, which is page 4. So first, I'm going to talk about what happened. This is where I already had a note, so it makes it easy. Jack writes a poem about a blue car. And I'm going to say how he's feeling. So do you promise not to read it out loud? Do you promise not to? Maybe he's feeling shy. He doesn't want the teacher to put his name on the board. So how do I know he's feeling shy? He wants to remain anonymous. We get that word later on, but I know it. It's in my vocabulary already. And the words he says is, do you promise not to put it on the board? And that's on page 4. So now I've filled in all the sections. I told kind of the thing that happened. I'm gonna take this off, sorry. I told the thing that happened. Seeing if I can move this a little bit. I told how he's feeling in that page or that section. And then I told what my details are. I want a direct quote, how you know he feels this way. He feels shy because he says, do you promise not to put it on the board? In other words, he doesn't want people to know it's his. And then I just put kind of another paraphrased idea that he wants to remain anonymous. He doesn't want his name on things. Okay, that shows us that on page 4. So you're going to be doing this today, but you're going to be doing it for pages 12 through 14, 15 to 16, and 17 to 19. Okay, so 12 to 14, 15 to 16, 17 to 19. So step 1, read. Step 2, as you read, you're going to use our annotation symbols. And step 3, you're then going to use your notes to help you fill in the chart on Seesaw. So that's your assignment today. And tomorrow we'll discuss what you found out about what happened with Jack in pages 12 to 19. So be ready to share. I hope you guys have a great day and had a good morning in specials, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.